Hello, it's me. Hi, it's Jorbs. uh, I have had a really bad cold these past like 5 days, and so my voice may be a little bit fried. But I've had ample time for thinking and reflecting as I lie in bed, communing with the Hat Man on my dose of NyQuil. And something that I thought would be fun to do as I was like turning things over in my head about like the state of 2025 and where we are in the world today is take a retrospective look at the past 8 years. Is that right? Good grief. Of Slay the Spire streaming. Just take a look at the Slay the Spire category statistics year by year and take a look at the titles um, of the streams of like the top streamers. And I may share a few anecdotes and things that I remember too. This is not that positive a journey, unfortunately. But I think it's an important one to tell all the same and an interesting one to tell all the same. And I'm not going to like hold punches or anything. So I just wanted to do it. Let's look at some numbers and some, concrete details. I think like telling the story of Slay the Spire is a fascinating game in the history of like streaming. It's a game that just kind of never stopped being watched. Let's see if this looks okay here. So Slay the Spire came out in 2017 and like massively virally exploded in early 2018. And like sure, fell off a decent bit, but if you look at viewership of Slay the Spire ever since, it's kind of just held on constantly at about 1,000 average viewers watching the game at all times, which is unreal. Compared to Monster Train, which is another roguelike. Monster Train 2 is coming out very soon, by the way, to get a sense of what this might usually look like for a game. Like, Monster Train has been averaging like 10 average viewers. The games didn't come out that far apart, 2 years. Slay the Spire just has this incredible streaming longevity. It's a very, very, very good game. It's the first game of its type. It's like inspired many games like it, but it remains one of, if not the best games of its genre. And like it was the first one, so it got a really awesome streaming community that built up around it. Lots of people interested in it. And Slay the Spire 2 is coming out later this year, supposedly into early access. So that's a really cool thing to be looking forward to now. And it'll be cool to see what happens next with the Slay the Spire community. Anyway, 2017. 2017, the game wasn't out for the full year, so streaming stats for 2017 are pretty slim. And also, the game just wasn't well known. This is not a game which got tons and tons and tons of hype on release day. It's a game which got picked up by some streamers who then showed it to other streamers, and it blew up basically from the bottom up. Like small streamers played this game and said it was really good to larger streamers they knew, and then the larger streamers checked it out and found that it was really cool too. So you're seeing a little bit of that in 2017. The top 5 streamers of the game in 2017 were Sonekarox, who's a Portuguese streamer, and I'm sure I am pronouncing that wrong because I don't speak Portuguese. Wanderbot, Dark Twinge, Matt Gambler, and Llama Chomp. 3 of whom I knew prior to this all happening. So my on-ramp onto Slay the Spire was, because people I knew were playing the game, and I saw that they were doing it. There's also SD down here, who is a person I know who plays a lot of fun roguelikes, indie games. Sullynome will give you 100 streams per page in its CSV, and so I set it to give me 100 for the most watched. I'm not going to look through every single stream it detected playing Slay the Spire. This is too much. But every year I'm going to look at the top 100. We'll mostly focus on the top 5. In 2017, it only has 54 streamers at all who played the game. So Slay the Spire started out very small at the end of 2017. Not many people playing, but over time, more and more people were quickly picking it up. Mostly English-speaking channels. Looking at some titles of the streamers playing the game in 2017, and just like an overview of them, we have a Portuguese streamer who came from Hearthstone, Sonekarux, I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong. We had Wanderbot, who is a variety streamer who played games like Divinity Original Sin 2, RimWorld, Xenoblade Chronicles. We have Dark Twinge, another roguelike and variety streamer. Played a lot of FTL, was playing FTL at the time. And I think Twinge has the honor of being the first person, at least to my knowledge, to put a win streak into a Slay the Spire stream title. His second Slay the Spire stream was Slay the Spire Can We Remain Undefeated, because he didn't lose in his first one. And then his third Slay the Spire stream, roguelike deck building, currently 4-0. That, to my knowledge, is the first instance of a win streak being publicized in a Slay the Spire title. And the way that that has evolved over the next 8 years is kind of wild. Matt Gambler, known for their Billions, XCOM, Long War Impossible, and other challenge-type games. And Llama Chomp, known for a variety of games. He was playing Factorio Battle Brothers and Xenonauts around that time. I actually knew him through XCOM. Llama Chomp is an early example of Slay the Spire being a comfortable time-vanishing game. His first stream of Slay the Spire, I believe, was I'm Calling a Mulligan on December and playing Slay the Spire. So, like, fuck all that. I'm just going to play this. Sling Charts in the Wrong Order and Chill. Excellent. And then Slay the Spire and For the King in a stream where he only played Slay the Spire and didn't play For the King. These are like 3 back-to-back-to-back, like quintessential Slay the Spire experiences, I believe. So, this was the beginning of Slay the Spire. Yeah. Cool. 2018, things heated up real quick. So in 2017, the most watched channel had 300,000, we'll say, minutes watched. And then in 2018, the most watched channel had 108 million minutes watched. So that's what, 3 orders of magnitude? 3 orders of magnitude higher. Yeah, 2018 is when I started streaming Slay the Spire, and I mean, when a lot of people started streaming Slay the Spire, it's when Slay the Spire blew up. So, top streamers of the game in 2018 were the Odd One, Dolphin Chemist, Baru, Jorbs, that's me, and Celerity. They're who I'm going to be looking at. There are other people to call out down here. Soda Poppin', big variety streamer who sometimes streams the game. Hafu and Dog are a very well-known couple from strategy gaming. Dog's big into Hearthstone. Hafu has played card games, but also plays other games. Also, people I collaborated with a decent amount in Among Us days. We got other people here. Amaz is well known for Slay the Spire now, so like still playing. It's really like a who's who of strategy gamers on Twitch, if you scan through this, in my opinion. Baylor Lord is here. He was playing the game very early on. Panstastic, I remember. Sleep Cycles. I remember like collaborating a lot with a lot of these people. There's Crip here, Roomba, Filthy Robot. These are people I know as strategy gamers. Trump, I know as a strategy gamer. Billy Kirby. B9, Savich, Sim. Like, so many well-known streamers. Life Coach played the game a little bit back in 20... whatever this was. So, lots and lots and lots of streamers, some of whom continue to play the game far into the future. Disguised Toast and Moon are here. These are like very, very big streamer names. Yeah, the game had a lot of activity in like January and February and then cooled off a bit. And this is like very normal for a game to have kind of a 1 to 3 month, what do you call it? When something's like in the cultural zeitgeist? Zeitgeist, that's the word. 1 to 3 month zeitgeist moment and then kind of cool off. But like I showed at the start, Slay the Spire is somewhat unique in that it didn't cool off all the way. Like some community was left behind and people kept playing and kept playing and kept playing and kept playing for 8 years. So um, still majority English speaking language channels on Twitch. I want to say like this is only on Twitch, so I'm not looking at YouTube. I'm not looking at other streaming services like Kick or streaming services in China or anything like that. Whereas Slay the Spire is also played and watched still to this day. So, but yeah, that's outside my scope here. We're just looking at the Twitch stuff. Yeah, a lot of stuff happened with the game as well in 2018. Ascension 10 released, then 15. Defect released, Ascension 20 released, Act 4 released. So there was a good amount of stuff to like bring people back if they played for a while, and then like the next thing comes up, you know. Although I think like for most people, as like a content release strategy, I think for most people, Act 4 releasing would have been a much bigger deal than like the high difficulty Ascensions releasing, because I think most people like just don't even make it to Ascension 20. Like there are lots of people who have played quite a lot of Slay the Spire who have never made it to Ascension 20, and there's nothing wrong with that. And like we saw with Llama Jump, this is not the sort of game where you have to be like grinding out your optimal win rate or whatever. This is a fun game you can play and have a good time. So my throat is already starting to die. Maybe this was the wrong day to do a video like this. Hopefully I'll be okay. Okay, so big streamers of 2018. This is the top 5. We had the Odd One. The Odd One, League streamer. I know him from his Team Solo Mid days. He was the jungler. I don't think I ever played with him. I used to be Diamond in League of Legends, like back in Season 2 and 3. And so I like played with Cutie Pie and Kiwi Kid and like some other streamers. And that was like my starstruck moment for me as a young gamer. But yeah, young. Anyway, he was a League streamer. He tried out Slay the Spire, and it kind of became his content anchor. If you look at Odd One's streams throughout 2018, there are a lot of streams where he started with something and then switched over to Slay the Spire to end his stream. Even like days where he had like a sponsored stream, he'd play League, like build up a big amount of viewers, then play a sponsored stream and get paid to have all of his viewers watch the sponsorship, and then switch over to Slay the Spire, which like is not a game that he's known for. He's going to get fewer viewers for that, but he's showing a ton of people who watch him for League of Legends Slay the Spire, and that's bringing a lot of people from another community into the Slay the Spire community. And League of Legends is not a community which you might immediately think has overlap with Slay the Spire. Like League of Legends is not a card game, etc., etc., etc. Although since this happened, League of Legends has released a card game, which is very heavily inspired by Slay the Spire. So there you go. Dolphin Chemist. Dolphin Chemist and I were both playing FTL when Slay the Spire came out, and both switched over to Slay the Spire. So he and I had sort of a parallel discovery process of the game. He had the highest win streak on Hard No Pause in FTL at the time, and I had the second highest win streak in Hard No Pause in FTL at the time. The story behind that is way back, 2017. The thing that I was having the most success with doing in content, like I was enjoying it a lot and it was getting lots of views and people were saying they liked it, was like analyzing other things that people did that I thought were impressive and being like, yo, look at this thing. This is really cool, etc., etc., etc. Here's a summary of it. So instead of like watching 30 hours of content, you can get a sense for what it is in 30 minutes. And then you can go watch it and understand what you're looking at, kind of thing. So I did like weekly summaries of an XCOM campaign someone was doing, where like if you had missed the previous 8-hour episode, you could catch up in 10 minutes and watch the next one. And Dolphin Chemist had this incredible, I believe it was a 26-0 win streak, Hard No Pause Random FTL. At the time, this was like very, 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 very good. Nowadays, like the Hard No Pause win streak is like 100 plus or whatever, because people keep getting better at games. You know how it is. Although I think with FTL, it might be that there's just one person who's incredibly good and everybody else is still around about. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not in touch with the FTL community anymore. I shouldn't try to speak on that. Anyway, there are lots of people who are really good at games out there in the world. So cool. Dolphin had this 26-0 win streak, and I was like, I want to like summarize this for people. Like, it's kind of like, it's hard to find all the different streams and watch them in order, and it's hard to understand as someone who doesn't know what FTL is, what's the strategy going on behind each of these runs. And so I started like analyzing the first 2 or 3 runs, and then I was like, oh shit, he's so much better at FTL than I am. I don't know what the strategy is behind what he's doing either. So I had to start like playing the game super hard and working out what was going on. And in learning the game to be able to comment on what he had done, I like coincidentally got the second longest win streak for the game. Which says something about how good the people who are the best at something are. That like just trying to get to a point where I could comprehend what he was doing led to me getting to a point where I had the second longest streak in the world. So yeah, Dolphin, awesome guy, like very impressive guy. Started playing some Slay the Spire in January 2018, and we see just straight away he's talking about win streaks and unlocks. He's coming from FTL. Win streaks are a big thing in roguelike communities, and so this is something that a lot of the roguelike players brought to Slay the Spire just kind of immediately. Dolphin, though, also like is not super competition focused as a streamer, never really has been, and so like a lot of his stream titles are more playful, just fun jokes, etc., etc., etc. Here you see later in the year after Ascension 20 has come out, he's talking about having a heart attack for going for the heart, and he's like, can I get that run bootless, etc., etc., etc. So Admiral Baru was the 3rd most popular Slay the Spire streamer for the year. And I think I saw him talking about streaks somewhere. It sure seems like I noted that I did, but now that I look at this, oh, there you go, Slay the Spire streaks, exclamation mark. Yeah. So Slay the Spire streaks are like even showing up sometimes in like the really big streamers' titles. Baru says he's going for streaks. I don't think Baru ever got like super into Slay the Spire, so I'm sure that if he had decided to dedicate thousands of hours to the game, he could have gotten some impressive streaks, but I think for him it was more of a like play for a couple of months and then move on. He's just a big enough streamer. He's got like 7,000 people watching him during these 10-hour streams, so just a few months of that is enough to put him near the top of the category for the entire year. And then there's me. I came from XCOM and FTL, same as Dolphin. Started playing January 10th, 12th. That says 12. And yeah, just trying to learn the game. My approach to stream titles is if there's something exciting that I want people to know about, I will put it in the title, and otherwise I will write something asinine and weird. And that's kind of what you're seeing here. But yeah, after like a few days, I am also talking about some win streaks. So, you know, coming from FDL like Dolphin, etc., etc. I went through, I did go through like the entire year for everyone. And I promise you, I'm not just showing you tons of stuff for me because I think I'm more important than other people or anything. I like Baru like just kind of played the game for a bit and has tons of viewers. Dolphin did a lot of like fun casual play and did some win streaking as well. The odd one, mostly a league streamer. When I was looking through this, I'm the first person where I felt like my stream titles were talking about like very different things at different times. So for example, in February, which was like about a month after I started playing the game, I had RoboJumper whip up some code that let Twitch pick cards by voting in chat for the game. So I like drew him a user interface and said, hey, can you code this? And he coded it in like under a day. And we started running it and ran Twitch chat accounts from Ascension 0 up to Ascension 15, because I'd already gotten mine to Ascension 15 and was like, oh, that was really fun. What if Twitch chat chose the cards? So this is like the precursor for Slay the Streamer, which is like really cool and still a popular mod today. I I also had the first instance that I found of somebody having wins and losses in their title in April. I was publicizing both my like streaks and my wins and losses on characters. So you can see I was 44 and 40 on Silent and 54 and 22 on Ironclad as of April 4th. And then in May, I had a 22 and 0 Ascension 15 Silent win streak. This, I think, for me, was like that's my first filthy win streak. And then in July, I was 22 and 0 again and 47 and 1 rotating or something. I don't even know what this says, to be honest. But basically, I was doing well. And this is causing my viewership to go up. You can see, like, I start off streaming to like 300 people, and now I'm streaming to 700 people. Sure. Whatever. Then in October, I did a charity week. I organized a charity week where I had a bunch of different streamers on with me. We had Baylor Lord, Pans, Electrobolt, Dolphin Chemist, and the Munchdown. And this is where like my channel like really grew to a point where I was like, oh, I'm like making money and this is like a real full-time job now. Whereas prior it had been like a full-time project, but like barely making rent really. Like I was making rent doing my XCOM stuff and everything, but yeah, not living a lavish lifestyle, let's say. So this charity week that I organized was really big for my channel, and I think for the community a decent amount in October. Sometimes, like, Baylor Lord and I have been largely the Spire streamers in the same community for 6.5 years now. And so sometimes people will be like, I like Jorbs more, I like Baylor Lord more. Recently I got a comment on a YouTube video that was like, really appreciate how your attitude is this compared to Baylor Lord's, which is that, or something like that. And like, there are always people in the community like pitting streamers against each other. And it's like, we have genuinely like been collaborating together on this game since before you were born. Like, fuck off. What the fuck? Anyway, history runs like pretty long in the Spire community at this point. This was a wild week, though, because I also had a 6-0 Ascension 20 streak going into the charity week, and then lost it right before. I think the world record was 7 at the time, so it was like, I think I held the world record at 7 at the time. So, I don't know, though. I was hoping to get more world record stuff out of the titles, but I do not apparently put my world records in my titles almost at all, so I didn't see very much of it. Pivoted more toward volume over win rate and win streaks toward the end of the year. So over the course of the year, I like came in from FTL, did a bit of like streaking, learning the game, got a couple of really good win streaks in there, but also like built an interface for Chat Slays the Spire, organized a charity week with a bunch of different community streamers, and then by the end of the year, I had already like pivoted away from like win rate type of things and into heart kill, just count. So at this point, I was talking about how many heart kills do I have total as a player. This is like, the heart came out in November or something, October. I didn't write it down. But yeah, the heart came out like not that long before this, so. Oh, actually, I remember the heart dropped on the last day of the charity week. So it actually, like, me and Jessica were staying up until midnight to play our first run at it or whatever. Shoot, I had forgotten about that. That is a good memory. Anyway, cool. But yeah, I pivoted away from that and was just focused on volume. And for me, the reason for that is I didn't want, like, my title of my stream and my results in general to be a point of like extra friction in like conversations in the community. When I tried to talk about my win rates like this, 44 and 40, etc., there were a bunch of Reddit threads being like, I have a 2% higher win rate on Silent than Jorbs. Therefore, I am the best Silent player in the world, and stuff like that. I'm making that slightly more self-centered than I should. It wasn't just higher than me, it was like higher than anybody else they'd known or whatever. But like my win rate was like a known thing and people were comparing to that, and I just like didn't really want that to be so encouraged to do. Slay the Spire isn't a competitive game, and this is something that we'll probably come back to, but I'll say for the first time here. Slay the Spire doesn't have like tournaments. It doesn't have any like competitive guidelines or agreed upon mode of competition. Over the course of the last 8 years, what competition has been and meant has shifted and been different things for different people. And because of that, Slay the Spire draws in people who aren't interested in competitive communities, but do like complicated strategy games. Like people who really like a game like Magic the Gathering or something like that, but just don't want to have to play against other people who are going to cheat to win or be mean when they lose or something like that. People like that might be drawn to Slay the Spire. But on the other hand, it also draws in people who are very competitive and want to be able to set the rules of competition. So people who are really into Magic the Gathering but don't like that they don't get many qualifiers for the Pro Tour where they live and feel like because of that they can't be the best in the world at Magic the Gathering, so they're going to play Slay the Spire. And in Slay the Spire, they're going to say like, I've done this thing and this thing and this thing, so I'm the best in the world at Slay the Spire because I'm just this incredible strategy gamer. And meanwhile, like, nobody else was trying to do that thing and that thing and that thing. So that you are the only person to do it is cool, but that wasn't like a point of competition in the community, so it doesn't mean that you're better than everybody else. It just means you did it. Yeah. So that's a weird thing about Slay the Spire, which we'll see more of as we move on. Finally, in the top 5 was Celerity. Celerity had the first utterly disgusting win streak in Slay the Spire history. He hit 50-0. Very, very, very early on, like in under a month of playing the game, he hit 50-0. Now this is at Ascension 0, and nowadays, thinking about win streaking Ascension 0, you kind of like roll your eyes, maybe. Like everybody's win streaking Ascension 20 with the heart out and stuff these days. But Ascension 0 was legitimately harder than it is now. Like potions were worse, cards were worse. I guess the heart didn't exist, and like keys didn't exist and stuff. Watcher didn't exist, so you didn't get free Watcher wins. A 50-0 Ascension 0 streak would actually still be good today with all of the buffs and people having gotten better. Like, it's actually kind of obscene that he got a 50-0 on Ascension 0 this quickly. Legit. Celerity is a variety streamer. He played a lot of Slay the Spire for like a year or two here and kind of pivoted out of it into more variety stuff. I said I wasn't going to hold punches. I would highly recommend like not supporting Celerity. He and I were on an esports team together, and he 100% like dated somebody I worked with and then stalked her, and then because I stood up to him, he started stalking me, including like sending a creepy message to my current girlfriend after finding her Instagram. So like, Slay the Spire achievements, absolutely not going to hide them. Don't always meet your heroes, though, I guess is the thing that I will say there, and then I'll just move on. But yeah, like, one of the weird things about like how long and deep this community runs is you know, you kind of have to have somebody like that as your coworker, and there's no like HR really in all this, so yeah, it is what it is, I guess. 2019. 2019, a lot of the hype for the game had fallen off. You look at 2018, the top 3 channels basically have 100 million minute watch time, and then in 2019, just mine does. And the second is at 35 million. So my channel was the most watched by watch time Slay the Spire channel in 2019 by a factor of 3. And again, not trying to be overly self-important and stuff, but when we're talking about this game having a lasting community and stuff, I do think that me spending like 1,000 hours a year for like 5 years running or something like that contributed a decent amount to it. I don't think that's like super conceited to say. So I worked pretty hard in 2019 to like keep Slay the Spire content coming, keep it interesting, build the community up, and have it be a fun place for people to stream and stuff. You see Baylor Lord doing a ton of work here as well. Dolphin Chemist played a bunch more of the game, but then kind of moved away to new stuff. Seabrace is a Korean streamer, and I do not speak Korean and have never spoken with Seabrace, so I can't really tell you anything about Seabrace other than that they stream the game a lot, and that's cool. You can see a good number of other streamers in here. The ones with the most hours streamed are maybe the most interesting in terms of like who is putting a lot of work into this community, whereas you also have like people like Northern Lion who like had tons of minutes watched but only streamed the game for 8 hours, which is cool. Excellent. But like compared to somebody who's put, 6,500 hours into the game, it's not that much. The game's numbers definitely like have fallen off here, minus 64% hours watched in 2019 and stuff like that. So I don't know what would have happened to Slay the Spire if I didn't stream at all in 2019. Like, would somebody else have gotten all of the viewers that I had? Maybe? I don't know. It's really hard for me in like looking at my career and my relationship to Slay the Spire in particular to like try to judge like how much of my life that I live right now in this lovely house where my exercise bike is out with my sweat cloth on it and everything. Anyway, I don't know. It's a lot of my life has come because of Slay the Spire, but also I have given a lot to Slay the Spire, and that's something that I think I see in these numbers looking at them. 1,100 hours, like 2,000 hours is a 40-hour a week, 52 weeks in a year, work year. So that's like no vacation, 40 hours a week. And you have to keep in mind when streaming that not all of my hours streamed are Slay the Spire, and also not all of my work week is spent live. If you think about how much of the work that goes into like a news broadcast is done live versus like before the broadcast and prepping for the broadcast and stuff, like there's a lot that goes into making a broadcast happen. I'm also like recording YouTube specific content and stuff like this all the time. So like this is a heavy work year for a streamer. As are these. The reason that you're not seeing people with numbers bigger than this is that it's quite hard to get a number bigger than this for hours streamed in a year of streaming for a game. So people who are putting in like 1,300-hour years are doing a lot of work. Anyway, let's look at some titles from 2019. 2019, I believe, was the first time that I did a 100 hearts in 30 days challenge. So I was like leaning more into that volume thing. I really like this game. I like playing it. I don't want to bring a bunch of like competitiveness about win rates or win streaks to the game and have people like flaming each other over who's better in a game which has no actual framework for real competition. So I'm gonna do that. Well, I'm still counting up how many heart kills I have total, but when I got to 200 heart kills, I was like, all right, fun challenge. Let's try to get the next 100 in under 30 days. Go. And that was the start of my volume challenges, which became very popular on my channel over time. I did in August mention a streak. In August, Teamfight Tactics came out and like absolutely killed the game category. August of 2019 is the, I think, third least watched minutes in Slay the Spire's history in the Twitch directory post 2018. So like we all just went and played Teamfight Tactics for a while. Myself, Dolphin Chemist, Celerity, I'm pretty sure. Like a bunch of us just stopped streaming the game for a month. Anyway, it was interesting to me that I did like mention a streak in my title after playing some Teamfight Tactics. Maybe I was feeling a little bit more competitive after playing a PvP game. I don't know, but you can see there the PB/world record for Ascension 20 rotating is 7-0. In October, I released a mod character. This was intended to be a trilogy of mod characters, but well, spoilers, something happens in early 2020 that kind of killed all my creativity. But yeah, in late 2019, I released the first of what was intended to be a trilogy of mod characters, The Wanderer, and that was just a ton of fun. I got my community involved in making art. I had a professional voice actor volunteer to do voice lines for the character. I got to design a wizard who loses his mind over the course of every fight and then is born anew at the start of the next floor, and it was just a really cool character for me to work on. And I had a ton of fun. So that's the thing that I did. I also spent a lot of time on charity during this year. I did a 24-hour charity stream with a bunch of members of Fade to Karma, which is an esports team which I joined, I think, in January. Yeah, January 1st, I believe. I joined Fade to Karma, and then I did a Valentine's Day charity stream, which was organized by Hannah, who I then like worked with ever since. We're still working together. She's awesome. She like manages a ton of stuff for me, and I talk about her heavily in a book that I wrote later. We'll get to that too. But yeah, lots of charity, February, October, December, raising money. Cool. It's kind of what I was up to in 2019. Dolphin did lots more fun Ascension 20 runs, but yeah, like I said, like he moved away from Slay the Spire in 2019 and played a lot of Teamfight Tactics and other games, and yeah, has largely moved on to variety stuff. Happy for him. The Odd One continued to do a lot of streams that are, I'm going to say, anchored by Slay the Spire. You can see like he's playing a game and then switching over to Slay the Spire afterwards. He did switch to Teamfight Tactics quite a lot, though. I guess he's another one who switched out of Slay the Spire for Teamfight Tactics. Seabrace, Korean streamer, like I said, playing a lot of Slay the Spire. He had a couple of just absolutely mammoth Slay the Spire streams. He didn't main Slay the Spire throughout the year, but you know, like a moderately sized channel, and definitely did a decent amount of the game. And like I said, the game's viewership fell off drastically in 2019 compared to 2018. Minus 64%. Yeah. And Slarty, Slarty also kind of started to pivot out of Slay the Spire. He was doing like a Spire day once a week, and then other content the rest of the time. And so that was his recurring thing. And I have my note there. Problem with celerity, which I already noted. All right, cool. 2020. 2020 viewership for Slay the Spire actually rose compared to 2019. It's kind of wild. Like there's no new content really. That's not true. Watcher did come out. Like this is when 1.0 came out in January of 2020, but like there's very little in the way of new content compared to what's been going on before. You could have been playing Watcher on the beta branch in late 2019 if you'd wanted to be. This is like largely a dead game in quotation marks. Little in the way of further balance patches and everything like that. Eventually we would get 2.0, and we're still getting a little bit of balance stuff going on in 2020, but like not that much. But yeah, Slay the Spire continued to be streamed, and like if anything, viewership was rising toward the end of the year even, which is kind of wild. Still being held up mostly by English speaking channels on Twitch, which isn't a surprise. Most of Twitch is English speaking. I think. I want to say that's true. I was the most watched streamer of the game again, with 819 hours streamed for 80 million minutes watched. So a bit of a relax compared to the previous year. This was the start of COVID. I played a lot of Among Us at the end of the year. It was a good time. Life Coach streamed 1,777 hours of Slay the Spire in 2020. So when I was saying like it's kind of ludicrous to like put a 1,300 hour year in and like you don't see other people doing this and stuff, like if you look through this, you don't see other people doing this. um, People do not stream the game for that long. Okay, the first year that it came out, Dolphin and I both put in 1,500 hours ish, but like that is a long time to stream Slay the Spire for. So Life Coach went super, super, super hard on Slay the Spire in 2020. Baylor Lord streamed a lot, and his channel rose in viewership quite a lot, up above 600 average viewers. Seabray's still streaming, and the Crimson Blur streamed a ton of Slay the Spire and had one of the wildest, like, competitive Slay the Spire, in quotation marks, because Slay the Spire doesn't really have competition, but, like, if Slay the Spire has ever had competition, I think it was this year, and I think it was because of how Blur was streaming the game. And we'll talk about that when we look at his stream. Yeah, and, like, other people playing. Terrence is a pretty well-known member of the Slay the Spire streaming community who's been streaming the game a lot for a long time. Very good player, likes to play Defect a lot. Dolphin still playing a little bit of the game and getting good viewers on it when he does. Who else is here with? Honestly, like, a lot of these names I don't recognize, which is interesting. Jackie has been streaming a lot more of the game recently, so he was already streaming it all the way back then. But yeah, a lot of these are not games that I recognize. There's Fariha. I know Fariha. Like, you probably don't, but I do. I don't really have anything to say about that. Tides streamed the game. That's cool. Amaz is here. Quinn69. I don't know he played Slay the Spire. Anyway, cool. 2020, watch your releases on the main branch in January. June, Monster Train releases and tanks the category, and then September, Among Us releases and tanks the category to the lowest ever post-2018 numbers. So the lowest post-2018 numbers for Slay the Spire were the month that Teamfight Tactics Season 1 came out, with third lowest. Second lowest, the month that Monster Train came out. Incidentally, Monster Train 2 comes out in like 3 weeks as of recording this video, so that's kind of exciting. But it comes out on the 21st of the month, so it probably won't hit Slay the Spire too bad, I don't think. And then the lowest month for Slay the Spire viewership since Slay the Spire released was when Among Us came out, which, like, it is wild how big a deal Among Us was, because Among Us is not the same genre as Slay the Spire. They are completely different games, but Among Us was such a big deal that it, like, yeah, just completely tanked the Slay the Spire category. I think Slay the Spire category viewership was like 40% of usual or something for that month. Among Us came out like here. So, anyway. I had a wild March. I did, however, dissociate for a lot of the year, so I don't remember much of it. That's because of, like, you know, COVID, and some other things. We already talked about the guy who was stalking, yeah. And then we'll talk about Life Coach quite a lot for a while. So March was wild for me. On the 8th, I set a new rotating world record, 9-0. Keep in mind that this is pre 2.0 balance patch, so like the game is harder. Yeah. It's whatever, but yeah, cool. COVID came out. I had some people from the University of Washington on to talk about how they were like using computing power to try to fold proteins to bond with the COVID spike protein, right? I think that's what it's called. Anyway, I'm not a science. That's not me. But they were, and so that was cool to get to do something. I've tried generally to use my like platform to do good things when I can. I started the second heart challenge in March as well. So yeah, kind of a wild month for me. That was a lot of stuff all at once. And then I had been trying to do a charity year where every month I was doing a different charity with the overarching goal of telling like a story about climate change and what we had to be doing to fight it. So I was like doing a charity about agency and a charity about climate refugees and a charity about water, and that's the one that I was doing in August, I guess. But by August, I was just so fucking done. Like, COVID was hard. I was stressed. The team I was on, Fate to Karma, which I mentioned earlier, at this point, it was apparent to me that one of my teammates was like doing the stalkies. There's no there's no fun way to say that, so I guess that was my attempt. Anyway, and um, and also the team was like struggling to generate revenue such that it had sold my rights to do charity work to a third-party organization, a for-profit third-party organization, who came in and were like, you have to do 1 6-hour charity stream every 2 months. And I was like, well, I am in the process of doing a charity day every month. Can I keep doing that? And they were like, no. So I was so fucking pissed. I should have just left the team at that point. But I don't know. So yeah, this was kind of like the last hurrah for me for charity work, was just doing a charity stream for Charity Water, where I think for every $100 donated, I said I was going to only drink water for the next that many days. And I thought like we'd raise $5,000 or something, because I wasn't planning to like go super long and hadn't really promoted it much. And charity streams on my channel were tending to get in the $5,000 to $10,000 range, it felt like. And then like people fucking raised like $36,000, and I had to just only drink water for like a year. I kept to it too. I cheated with juice and a milkshake like twice, which like for me it was like I can get ice cream or I could just have the milkshake. That's how I justified it. And I think I had like juice once or something when my throat was killing me on a hot day. But yeah, like I legit, like I didn't have tea, I didn't have coffee, I didn't have soda, I didn't have like milk. I didn't like I went. That was kind of a wild year for me. Anyway, Life Coach. Life Coach had streamed a bit of Slay the Spire before. I didn't actually look at what his stream titles were the first time he streamed it, but yeah, like not super much, like a couple 100 hours. And The Watcher came out, and he started playing The Watcher in March. So this is like 3 months after The Watcher has come out, and a big thing here is like he went super hard on Watcher. Like I said, 1,700 hours streamed, 1,800, you can round it up. He went super hard on Watcher for the next like 4 months, basically. So he legitimately became the best Watcher player in the world. I think that is like fairly likely that he was the best Watcher player in the world at this point. He had just put in more time than everybody else. I've been drawing attention to like stream titles, and I've talked about like how, you know, a lot of people like kind of started off drawing attention to win streaks and stuff, but then moved into like funny whips and stuff or talking about other things. Life Coach's stream titles are just like always his results, and usually portrayed in the way that makes his results look as impressive as possible. Like almost without fail. This like is true for 98% of his stream titles when streaming Slay the Spire or something like that. And so he came in and set himself a challenge. He wanted to streak from Ascension 0 to Max Ascension playing Watcher, I guess. And so, you know, he's learning the character. It takes a while to get going, but eventually did. And then he was win streaking Ascension 20 with a random boss relic. And then when he lost, he stopped saying he was win streaking, but his win rate was still good. So then he started just talking about what his win-loss ratio was and took the win streaking part out of the title. So yeah, he did a bunch of Watcher, and then he like wanted to learn Silent for a bit. So while he was learning Silent, he didn't have his wins and losses in his title. And then when he thought that he was doing well enough on Silent, he started putting his wins and losses in the title, but then I guess he like lost a run or two, and then he said back to learning and stopped having his wins and losses in the title. Same with Ironclad. He said learning Ironclad for a while, and then I guess he'd been winning quite a few Ironclad runs, so then for a couple of days he had I am 7-1, I am 8-1 on Ironclad. Like he must have been like 6-1 here or something, and he won one more and he was like, I'm going to start putting in the title now. But then I guess he like lost a couple because then he switched to saying learning Silent. Uh, this is kind of how this all goes. And then he's like, let's continue to silence the hard. And then suddenly he has his win rate in the title again. I guess at this point, 18-3 was good or something. I don't really know. And then he comes back here and he says iron chatting back to 20, then continue with the sample size after. I don't know why he had to iron chat back to 20. I guess he lost his ascension. You can just text file edit it though, so I don't really understand that. But anyway, then he like continued from 8-2 on Ironclad, but he wasn't. It's like confusing because he was playing Silent, not Ironclad, but now he's saying he's playing 50 games of Ironclad. And then eventually he played his 50 games of Ironclad, won 32, lost 18, and then immediately just said he was playing 50 games of Ironclad and started again at 0-0. Which is like, okay, sure. That didn't go anywhere because I guess like he didn't start off winning very many or something, so he just abandoned it. And then in later November, he was now playing Defect. He started off 5-14 on Defect, which is like very bad. And around about now was when he spent so long live on camera talking about how bad my win rates were and how he was better at the game than me that like 3 different people came from his channel to my channel to tell me that it was happening. So I like reached out to him via Twitter DMs to be like, hey, what's up, dude? Anyway, he like finished his Defect thing and then immediately reset because I guess that wasn't very good. And then he ended up getting a Defect thing that he liked more, and then he left it in his title for the rest of the year so that everyone could see that he had done well that time while starting to play Silent. So I think the culmination of that entire year is he got one set of 50 Defect runs that he liked, advertised it for as long as he could, and then for like every other set of runs that he did, he didn't like what his result had been and stopped advertising it immediately. Is that right? I don't know. Something like that. But like Life Coach becoming a major streamer in the Slay the Spire community was like exhausting. I think like just like broadly for the entire Slay the Spire community. He came from Hearthstone, where he kind of infamously flamed out of Hearthstone. He had the highest like win rate on ladder or something for a while. No. I think it was actually in competitive events. I think it had the highest win rate in competitive events for a while. And some people were like, okay, but you're playing in like more events with easier fields and like other players in other regions of the world, so this isn't really like a fair comparison or something. And then I think he did something where he was like trying to prove that he could have the highest ladder win rate in the world, which isn't even like a thing because nobody else is trying to do that. That isn't a competitive category. And then I think the ultimate thing was that the devs reached out to him to like take a look at the next set to see if he wanted to give some balance advice, and he gave like very bad balance advice and then went public with it, saying like, if this card releases in its current form, it will ruin the game. And then the card released in its current form and the game was completely fine. And then he just stopped playing Hearthstone. And that was like sort of the energy that he brought with him to Slay the Spire. And yeah, just a lot of like saying stuff like, that he wished he'd started playing the game sooner because the other streamers who had spent time learning the game and creating strategy guides and stuff for it had made his job harder because people were starting off with the wrong ideas because of other streamers saying stuff. Honestly, he said this like more directly and more negatively than I am. I don't even think he'd disagree with that. I think he would not think it was unfair at all for me to say that like he thought he was better than the other Slay the Spire streamers and that their like guides and strategies for the game were worse than what he could make. So that's him arriving on the scene. Welcome, life coach. Anyway, Baylor Lord, this was his first time in the top 5 streamers for the game, but he'd been streaming the game for like a couple of years already, pretty much. He did a bunch of ladder streak sorts of content. So he was just doing fun things where he was starting Ascension 0 and trying to get to Ascension 20 without losing, or speedrunning it, trying to do it as quickly as possible. Baylor is someone who's very good at the game, but is also like interested in doing fun things with bugs in the game and stuff like that. So he's like finding out ways that you can abuse different things to speedrun. Doing things like no skips, so you're not allowed to use the skip button while you're leveling up from Ascension 0 to Ascension 20. So Baylor is like perhaps the best ever streamer of like kind of variety challenge content in Slay the Spire, and that's what he's been up to, and that's awesome. I don't have a negative thing to say about Baylor. Seabrace, I still don't read Korean, unfortunately, but Seabrace was still streaming Slay the Spire. I'm sorry, I don't read Korean. And the Crimson Blur came onto the scene as well in January 2020. So actually shortly before Life Coach started streaming the game, Blur just kind of sat down and was like, I'm going to get the Ascension 20 rotating world record win streak. Like, Blur hadn't played much of the game prior to this, and a lot of people coming into the game, having not played it much prior, would be like, I'm going to get to Ascension 20, or something like that. Blur had already gotten to Ascension 20. I'm going to get, like, 5 wins in a row, or something like that. Blur was just like, no, I'm going to get the rotating win streak world record, which is obscene. It's, like, the hardest thing to do in the game. Just about, like, you have to win more times than anyone else ever has before in a row while playing all of the characters. Like, what? This is not something that you just sit down and say you're going to do when you start playing the game. And Blur sat down and said he was going to do that, and then he actually just did it. Which is, to me, one of the most obscene things that has ever happened in the history of Slay the Spire. He worked really hard for this. He thought hard, he theorized hard, he played hard, he, like, put hours in. And I think first he tied me at 8, right? Yeah, he tied me at 8. And then I think I actually got 9 at some point, and then he got 10. And Blur has a natural ability to like put on a show. Blur came from the Smash community. So if you've ever seen like Super Smash Brothers tournaments where they're at the CRT monitors and they both got their controllers, and people are popping off and jumping out their chairs and like getting emotive and stuff, that's more the energy that Blur was bringing to the game, where a bunch of us like Hearthstone and other strategy game streamers like just kind of sitting there in our chairs like thinking really solemnly and slowly. Smash Brothers is like a reactions game. It's fast paced. It's like emotions are going. Chemicals are happening in your body. So he brought that energy to the game, and that was really cool to see. It brought a lot of energy around win streaks, in particular around like one of my win streaks, because I held the rotating world record at the time, and that was not something that I really wanted. So, yeah, and then like after he got it, he did like chill out a decent amount and just like play more and stuff. Blur's a good guy. But my general experience of 2020 was like my esports team I was on was going under. A guy was stalking me / my friend. I was known for being really good at Slay the Spire, but like the people who wanted to compete with me, one of them was like very prominently, specifically targeting one of the prime achievements that I had. And another one was like just talking openly about how he thought everyone else was shit at the game and their knowledge of the game was holding him back. So like going back to that thing where like Slay the Spire is a non-competitive game, is appealing to people who don't want to compete, but also appealing to people who do want to compete and want to set that competition the way they'd like it to be. 2020 was very much like me sitting there not wanting to compete, while people around me like set challenges for themselves and set rules of competition for themselves, which they thought let them say that they were better than me, and then started saying they were better than me in ways that were like, it's different to not care about competition, and to not care if someone is saying they're better than you in front of like thousands of people, with regards to something that you've put at this point like 4,000 hours of your life into or whatever. It's different. It was a stressful year. So that was 2020. All right, cool. 2021. 2021, a lot of the same names at the top of the category here. Myself and Baylor both put in 1K plus hour years, as did Life Coach. Amaz kind of ascended pretty hard in the category in 2021. By the way, 188 million minutes watch time. What? Wow. Okay, I had not. Wow. That's like 80% more watch time than any other year of Spire viewing, I think, on Twitch. Yeah. Amaz came into the category pretty hard. R9 did a bunch of streaming, more of Terrence. Paparato, who is now a more well-known Slay the Spire streamer, was already putting in 1,000-hour year here. I do not know who Money Money Loot is, but they streamed 1,700 hours of Slay the Spire to 32 average viewers, which I don't know if that's a person or a bot, because Twitch plays Slay the Spire, or Twitch Slays the Spire. This one is a bot, and they have like the same numbers. Like if you're a human being, you shouldn't be streaming almost more than a robot, should you? That's a lot of streaming. Anyway, this goes to further illustrate how obscene the 1,770 hour year of streaming that Life Coach did was. So yeah, that's like what the category is in 2021. In 2021, I did a lot of heart challenges. My response to all this like competition stuff from 2020 was to lean much more into the like comfortable volume challenges, which I had been enjoying. So I did a lot more of that stuff. I wrote some debriefs about the things. February 2021 was, or actually I think this happened in January of 2021, and we talked about it in February 2021. But February, late January, early February 2021 was perhaps the most active month of world record rotating competition that Slay the Spire has ever seen. So Blur came along and said, I'm just going to set the rotating world record, and then won 10 in a row, right? Wow. That record stood for like a year. That wasn't an easy thing to do, genuinely. Like, he didn't extend it for a year, neither did anybody else. And then in the space of like 2 weeks, myself, Terrence, and Baylor all extended it at the same time. And that was just absolutely wild 2 weeks of competitive Slay the Spire. So there's a video of me, Terrence, and Baylor talking about all of our runs from those world record streaks on YouTube somewhere. Uh, yeah, we just like talk about them for several hours if you want to check that out. It's not hi-fi and heavily edited or anything, but it is, to me, it will always be like one of the most absurd things that's ever happened in Slay the Spire history. The fact that that record got broken 3 times in like 2 weeks. Sometimes in Slay the Spire, it feels like even though like people come and go from playing and stuff, a lot happens all at once. Um, who knows why? It's probably just the fact that one random chance extends over a long enough time. Sometimes you see patterns, but I don't know. Anyway, Heart Challenge 3, Heart Challenge 4, Heart Challenge 5. I think during this Heart Challenge, I like set a new... Yeah, it was during this volume challenge that I broke the 10 and 0. Yeah. Heart Challenge 5. I also wrote an entire book during this year. I think I wrote an entire manuscript of a book in like 2 months, basically, and ended up publishing a 70,000 word book later the next year, or maybe January of the year after even. It takes a long time to publish a book. Heart Challenge number 6. More charity stuff. That was basically my year. I didn't do a ton of focusing on competition or win rates or win streaks, and when I did, it was to like make a collaborative video with 2 other people about how we had broken this 10-0 rotating win streak all together. Because all the way back in like pre day one, if January 2018 is day one, which it isn't, like November 2017 is day one, but like pre-January 2018, people were already putting their win streak into their Slay the Spire title. And here we are, like 3 years later, 3 of us breaking the rotating world record streak, like in the span of 2 weeks. That's just cool. So that was really exciting to talk about. But for the most part, yeah, like I'm not trying to be all about competition here with what I'm putting out into the world in the Slay the Spire community. Amaz came from Hearthstone, kind of a goofy approach to Slay the Spire, does not try to play as well as possible. He's kind of just having fun and playing cards and having a fun stream experience. He is or was friends with Life Coach from Hearthstone, and so lots of like hosting each other going on in their channels and stuff. One of the things for me in this situation is like I started to like stop hosting other Slay the Spire streamers and start hosting like friends of mine from the esports team I was on and stuff like that, because the other Slay the Spire streamers are often like supporting some guy who's regularly just shitting on me on his channel for no reason, while saying he's better than everybody else, and I didn't want my viewers to have to deal with that energy. So yeah, so like Amaz is like, it seemed like his content was really great, but then like I like watched him a bit and they were like talking about how Life Coach was goated or something, and I was like, and then I like raided him one time, which like back then I would like give people a raid to like see how it went, because like I was interested in supporting other people in the community. I think he like responded to the raid by saying like, not sure what you're up to on your stream, but I bet you were really good at it, like kind of sarcastically, and I was like, holy shit, okay, not doing that again. So yeah, I don't know. He was like, I'm not trying to judge him or anything. I don't think he's a bad person, like abstractly. But when a guy's been like openly harassing and abusing you in a community for over a year, there start to be things that are getting said about you where like that's not a thing that is true, and not a thing that it's okay for you to say to me, and not a thing that I want to expose my audience to. And so one of Life Coach's things was a belief that I thought I was better than everybody else, etc., etc. And I just don't have that belief and never have, and it was weird, and it was weird to like raid Amaz one time and have him kind of like what appeared, at least to me, to be tongue-in-cheekly talk about how I must be really good at what I was doing, because like that was what I guess he thought I thought I was known for or something. I don't know. It was weird. But Amaz is streaming Slay the Spire and having fun, and that's all cool. Whatever. Yeah. Life Coach. What did Life Coach get up to in 2021? So he played some Silent. He got 32 and 18, over 50 games of Silent, and then immediately said he was doing 100 games of Silent instead of 50 games of Silent. Then he got to 62 and 36 and 100 games of Silent, and then he went back to his Ironclad, which I guess he was happy with, and said he was going to do 100 games of Ironclad. Then after he finished his 100 games of Ironclad, which I don't think he was satisfied with, he played Gwent for a long time. And then he started another 100 games of Ironclad just from zero, like the previous 100 didn't count. So he's at 66 and 32 on Ironclad, yeah. That's where he is here. Okay, but he started another 100 and didn't count the previous ones. So then he finished those 100 games of Ironclad and he went 63 and 36. So overall, just bear with me here, right? Overall, he's 129 and 68 at this point, I believe, which is like pretty good for what it's worth. That's not like a bad Ironclad one, right? And then he just immediately was like, okay, we're forgetting that immediately. I am now doing turtle speedruns, 2 hours per run. So he's like making fun of himself a little bit, that like people say that he plays really slow, and saying he's speed running 2 hours a run. And he played 50 of those and went 41 and 9. So his 66 and 32 and 129 and 68 were in his stream titles for the time that he was playing them and then not anymore. And then his 41 and 9 doing this stopped being turtle speed runs. They just started being Ironclad runs in general, and were in his stream title for like a month or something. And then he piggybacked on top of them to say he wanted to finish 100 Ironclad runs. And so he started again at 41 and 9 instead of starting at 0 this time. He started going again. But we're at 170 and 77, right? Cool. Meanwhile, Baylor did lots of ladder stuff this year and lots of fun little quips in his titles and stuff, and this is how he grew his channel. Just lots of like positive, inclusive, Slay the Spire, fun times. And Soda Poppin' also top 5'd this year. Kind of like the number of full-time Slay the Spire streamers with moderate-sized channels dropped off, and so somebody who just had a massive channel who streamed it very occasionally was able to come into the top 5 here. But yeah, he's just like doing things like roguelike roulette, which is a really cool idea where you're like playing a different roguelite, maybe on a wheel spin or something like that. This kind of thing with Shot If I Lose. That's actually a really cool idea. Maybe I should do that sometime. Anyway, that's what Soda Poppin' was up to, but like not really like a Slay the Spire streamer in the sense of like dedicating 1,000 hours to playing Slay the Spire, but it's definitely somebody who's bringing attention to Slay the Spire in the sense of showing Slay the Spire to a massive number of people still. All right, 2022. It's another 1,000-hour year for myself and Baylor, and Life Coach and Paparato both put up more than 1,400. Zeknar's in here too, with 1,500 hours. First time I've seen Zeknar. Zeknar is a popular streamer these days, although... wait, why is this here? I didn't really have an all though with Zechner. Uh, I guess like more well known these days, but has been streaming the game for quite a while. I guess is what I was going to say. We actually had a slight uptick in hours watched in 2022 over 2021, but like generally what you're seeing from 2020 onward is that the category is just very stable. Just like kind of keeps having viewers from places. So cool. Top 5 streamers viewed: myself, Life Coach Shamaz, Baylor, and Frost Prime. And in 2022 was, if 2021 was a shit year for me, 2022 was a great year for me. I guess like 2020 was the shit one. 2021 was like kind of okay. I mentioned a streak in February by saying that I'm sort of pissed off that I'm 10-0, which like increasingly was the way that I interacted with my results being good, because I found more and more that if I publicized my results or if people saw that I was having good results in Slay the Spire, it led to me getting harassed and people saying that I wasn't very good at the game. And that is just such a tragedy, to go from a game that was welcoming to people who didn't care about competition and had room for people to achieve things in lots of different ways, like ladder streaks or win streaks, single character play, rotating play, playing at low ascension, doing collabs, doing quirky challenges. To have someone being put down over their achievements, it's just sad. But that was what was happening, so I was like feeling bad that I was 10-0 in Slay the Spire, which is like still somewhat how I feel today. Like it's no longer very fun for me to do well at Slay the Spire. It's fun to play the game. It's fun to think about the game. I just like would rather go like 29-1 with a loss at 15-0 while playing lots of interesting, fun, interactive runs than go 30-0 in Slay the Spire, because like if I go 30-0, everybody starts yelling at me and I get doxxed and harassed and people like bully me on their streams and stuff. It's fucked up. It's fucked up. You'll see a bit more of it, I think, later this year. But anyway, that's the thing about that. Did a heart challenge in March, and then in May, I extended it to make it like 2 months back to back. I did 100 the first month and then 105 the next month. I introduced Floor Per Day. I believe this is the first time that I saw myself at least doing Floor Per Day, which was a series where I spent an hour on a floor of a run every day. And so we just did like an hour at the whale bonus, an hour for the first floor and card reward, an hour for the second floor and card reward, etc. Somewhere there's a stitched together like 20-hour long Act 1 that I played. I actually couldn't find it the last time I looked for it on YouTube, but it's there somewhere. Probably if you search on YouTube for like my longest videos, that would be the easiest way to find it, I imagine. I bought a house. So that was pretty cool. Got to move into my house. And then I did, in September of 2022, have some results related stuff. I don't remember exactly why. I think it was because I was like tracking my runs, and what I found was enjoyable for me was to try to have good PBs over like 60 runs, which is 15 runs of each character, or 100 runs, which is 25 runs of each character. And that was a good way for me of tracking my progress without having to deal with like win streak pressures and stuff like this. But like it wasn't competitive, it's just like me trying to compete against my past self. These aren't like categories that other people were playing, they weren't intended to be, and I wasn't trying to beat other people with them or anything, etc. There was also a 17-0. I think that's a new world record. in here, it's not showing up in the titles, but I extended the world record that I think was at like 13 to 17, and I did it like gratuitously. Like I got a 15-0 and died, and then I got like a 16-0 and died, and then I got a 17-0 and died. And I think I had like two more 15-0s at some point. I think I've gone 15-0 or something. I think I've gone 15-0 6 times in Slay the Spire, and like never gone 20-0, which maybe says I've been unlucky, or maybe says like it is very stressful for me to play extended win streaks with the like things that I associate with them at this point in this community. I don't know. Maybe I just gotten really unlucky. Another volume challenge in November. Cool. Life Coach. Life Coach ended up 81 and 19 on Ironclad, and this was a huge thing in the Slay the Spire community. He left the fact that he'd done this in his stream title for 2 months. So, like, whereas the end of his other, like, sets of runs disappeared pretty rapidly, maybe instantly even, this one, he left in his stream title for 2 months, that he'd gone 81 and 19 on Ironclad. I want to, like, bring you back here again, though, real quick. Because this is 81 and 19, where previously he was 129 and 68, right? So overall, if you do the math, weird that that doesn't add up to 300. Maybe I did the math wrong. But anyway, 210 divided by 300 would be 70%. So it's like a 70% Ironclad win rate over 300 runs, but he's truncated the first 200 off. People were asking me to say and believe that his Ironclad win rate was 85%. And I don't know why this needed to be a point of contention. Why does this have to involve me? Basically because, like, if I wanted to say something strategic about Slay the Spire in any way, it had to either conform with how Life Coach played the character I was talking about, or it was an insult to Life Coach, kind of, at this point in the history of Slay the Spire. And so I largely just stopped talking about strategy in Slay the Spire entirely. And yeah, like, I don't know, if you see someone play 300 games of Ironclad and have like a 70-ish% win rate on the character, you can't like ask everyone else to say he has an 85% win rate on the character. This is actually like meaningful to me because I have spent thousands of hours on my life trying to push my abilities at Slay the Spire to like the human limit, right? I have a very refined idea about what I think the win rates that are achievable for me or achievable for like someone who was better than me are on the different characters. And I don't know that 85% isn't achievable in Ironclad. I think it might be. I think low 80s are. But like having somebody win 70% of their runs over 300 and then demanding that I say that they're winning 85% on the character because he went 81 and 19 and was improving the entire time, so he's even better now than before, was the argument I was given. It's just like insulting to me. It's just like, yeah, anyway, that's cool. This is a really cool achievement, going 81 and 19 on Ironclad. That's awesome. Wonderful. Leaving in your title for 2 months straight is a lot. And then in April, he went live with the title 0 out of 100 monkey kills in 1 day. With the rest of his stream title being the results of previous sets of runs, which he liked. And this is just directly mocking me. This is not Um, this is not, there's no like gray area here. Like you've seen what my stream titles are for the last like 2 years. I'm doing like 7 different volume challenges. So he did that. And did a bunch of monkey kills. Really funny to me that halfway through the monkey kills, he updated his stream title to explain that that meant heart kills because it's very confusing. Um, and then at the end of the challenge, I've screenshot it wrong, but at the end of the challenge, his stream titles are just saying heart kills. They're no longer saying monkey kills. Like he updates the target to 169, the least serious number that could be more than what I had done, I guess. And then, yeah, did that. That's like really insulting. Yeah. He did that. Volume challenges were never competitive in any way. Volume challenges were like me saying, okay, I'd like to stream 200 hours of Slay the Spire this month, and then working backwards to be like, I can probably beat this many hearts in 200 hours. He streamed like 280 hours this month, and he did a bunch of stuff like resetting runs after bad starts and things like that, which I just like never did. And yeah, it was really weird that he did that. I am breaking my like primary source rules to share a clip because like I'm saying a lot of like things about Life Coach being an asshole. And you might think like, well, is he really an asshole? Jorbs really seems to be saying he's an asshole. This is
well because he's always saying, oh look at me, I'm the best player, I'm the best.
He's talking about me. I don't say I'm the best player. This is him like reading a big strategy post that I wrote on Reddit that got like 2,000 upvotes. Is your context? It's about how I won 80% of my Ascension 20 Spire runs rotating for a month. So he's saying, "Oh, look at me, and the best player is me." That's not something that I've said.
Yeah. And this just like opens all kind of, and then he is so confused if he gets exploited or if
Then he's so confused if he gets exploited. So this is him like directly saying that he's trying to exploit me, and also like saying that I'm confused about it. I'm not confused. He's like an asshole. This is confusing to almost anybody.
if people like me personally are attacking him.
So he's saying that he is personally attacking me.
Yeah. And also calling it out.
And that he's calling it out. It being, I guess, me saying that I'm better than everyone. But again, he's like reading a very long strategy post in which I do not say I'm better than anybody else. The strategy post says, like, this tier list essentially captures how I've been playing Defect for the last 3 years now. I believe I've held the world record streak on the character tied with Burr and Terrence at different times for almost the entirety of those 3 years. That literally isn't me saying I'm better than everybody else. That's me citing a concrete fact which is true while placing myself grammatically next to 2 other people I didn't have to mention. I, like... Anyway.
You know? It could be so much different.
Yeah. It could be so much. It is his fault that he's doing this.
Yeah, and that's why he has to eat all this shit. And then he's like, oh.
That's why he has to eat all this shit. And then this is a grown man pantomiming a child.
And then he's like, oh, everybody is so mean to me. Yeah.
Like crying like he's in like he's 6 years old.
Fucking Kunststück, Idiot, man.
And then he like, I guess, gets mad enough to start swearing at me in another language. This guy is a fucking asshole. This guy like came to the Slay the Spire community like a rancid cloud of hate and just like insulted the people around him and tore down the things that were built here. And you know, that's what I have to say about him.
Well,
I'm gonna let it play without me talking
over it.
I'm the
best player. I'm the best player, and this just like opens all kind of, and then he is so confused if he gets exploited or if people like me personally are attacking him. Yeah, and also calling it out. It could be so much different. Yeah, but it's not. Yeah, and that's why he has to eat all the shit. And then he's like, oh, everybody is so mean to me. Yeah, fucking Kunststück, Idiot, man.
So uh I've published like multi-hour videos exclusively on like life coach as like a study of a manipulative narcissist because he's a really fascinating study. You can see it in like his titles as well, the ways that he'll like highlight the things that he does which are impressive, put down others in his titles. That's what he's doing here with the monkey kills, right? And also like not present the things which aren't impressive. Like he won't hold on to the things where like his win rate wasn't super great. He won't like leave that in his stream title for 2 months. But yeah, there's a lot of other stuff in like how he interacts with his chat and the things that he says. I found a like thing at the end of, oh, was it actually? I think it might have been at the end of his 41 and 19 Ironclad thing. Or maybe it was at the end of the next one. But it was around about this time. I found like a 10-minute segment where he was just like talking shit about me just nonstop and just like making shit up. And it's really interesting to watch someone who's manipulative, like have one thing that they say and then like come back to it 15 seconds later and be using it in a different way that's more insulting. Like he was talking about volume challenge that I did where I had a 60% win rate, and he was insulting me by saying like that was a high roll for me and I don't actually deserve a 60% win rate on a volume challenge and stuff like that. And then 15 seconds later, he comes back to it, and now he's talking about 60% as my actual best possible win rate. When like a volume challenge isn't for maximizing win rate, right? Anyway, that's what he's been up to. Life coaches' titles are just really fascinating to analyze because you can see the manipulation and toxicity present only in the titles. It's just kind of wild. Yeah. Then he said he was going to go back to defect, and he was at I don't know, whatever this was after the end of the day, 41 and 9 maybe. And then he said he was going to play 100, and then he just stopped after like 5. So I don't know. He just like didn't. I think he maybe like lost a few, and so he wasn't going to get a really good result, and so he stopped playing entirely or something like that. And then he just said, "Oh my god." Then he started playing Watcher, and he said he was going to do 50 runs of Watcher. Cool. And so he started playing Watcher. And he got up to 24 Watcher runs in a row and said win rate last 42 games is 100%. 50 games of Watcher, 24 and 2, finished streak at 42. Now, 42 Watcher wins in a row would be the world record Watcher streak at this time in history. It is since then, actually, Life Coach himself has set a longer Watcher streak than that. But at this time in history, 42 Watcher wins in a row would be the world record for Slay the Spire. So if somebody was interested in the Slay the Spire community and was watching like Slay the Spire channels and stuff like that, and wanted to know like who has won the most Watcher runs in a row, because as we saw all the way back in 2018, something that a lot of people care about in games like this is getting win streaks. Just straight away, Slarity had 50 and 0, Twinge was talking about how he was undefeated and had 4 and 0, etc. That's the thing that a lot of people are drawn to in these games. If someone was interested in what the win streak on Watcher was in Slay the Spire, he is advertising that he has just gotten a 42 win in a row Watcher streak. This is something that he's verbally confirming. He's talking about this. He did a really weird thing where the previous holder of the world record was Merle, and he asked Merle while live streaming to confirm that his streak counted, because this isn't a streak. he just did the monkey kills thing where he made fun of me for a month, right? And he played Watcher in it. And he lost a ton of those Watcher runs. He's counting his runs from before this, like the last time he played 50 runs on Watcher or whatever, as going towards this win streak. But he's played Watcher runs which he lost in between. It isn't a win streak. Just one problem, Ben. So this was really a sublime year from Life Coach. He got 70% win rate on Ironclad and then left it in his title for 2 months that he had over 80% win rate and had people saying that he had 85% win rate actually. Then he went for 169 monkey kills, making fun of the game's most popular streamer's primary mode of content. And then he claimed that he had a Watcher world record, which he didn't have, just like openly lying. Making fun basically of the only other way that anybody competes in Slay the Spire. And that was Life Coach for the year. Maz was still doing his thing. Baylor went for 400 wins in a year. Frost Prime went for fun content. I think that something that stands out to me, having streamed Slay the Spire through this period of time, is if you look at what people who were well watched in like 2019 were doing with Slay the Spire, I think you see like a decent amount. Maybe 2018 is a better example. You see a decent amount of streaks and like competition and stuff. Win streaks, unlock, stuff like that. I think it is notable to me that in 2022, in the top 5 streamers who are playing Slay the Spire, Life Coach every single day is talking about his results, and like nobody else is talking about their results anymore. Baylor has set himself a goal to win 400 times in the year, but is not talking about his win rate in any way. Frost Prime is a popular streamer. He is making fun content. I didn't talk about Frost Prime yet. He's an awesome streamer. He makes really fun content. He's got stuff here like, if you sub, I will reset the run and it won't end until I beat a run, or 5 subs means I spin the wheel and then the wheel does something. He's playing Slay the Streamer. Cool. Awesome. And then Baylor is just getting 400 wins in the year. And then I am doing like volume challenges and floor per days. Like that thing where like Blur was in the community and people were like fighting for win streaks. And then like Terrence Baylor and I have all gotten the win streak back to back to back and stuff. Like just like Life Coach comes in and like starts making up rules of competition and insulting people all around him and saying this is the right way to play, this is the wrong way to play, and bringing up people's strategy game posts and saying they deserve to be bullied, and everybody else just like tried to find a different lane to be as far away from this person as possible. Yeah, anyway, 2023. Life Coach put in another 1,000-hour year, but like everybody else stopped streaming. Now, I don't want to say that the only reason that like myself and Baylor for the first time in 4 years or whatever streamed under 1,000 hours of Slay the Spire in 2023 was Life Coach. Or that like many other people who used to play and enjoy Slay the Spire are just not here anymore. I don't want to say that. Creator streamed 1,900 hours of Slay the Spire this year. Oof. Wow. I'm pretty sure that's a real person and those are real numbers. That is a lot of streaming. Anyway, you know, the game's getting on a bit. Lots of reasons why people might be finding other things to play at this point. But yeah, I mean, somewhat noticeable that after that year, there are now people moving away from the game. In 2023, my goal as a streamer was to stream under a third of my hours streamed on Slay the Spire. So Slay the Spire as a community like kind of just lost me as a content creator. Um, like still here a bit, still putting some stuff up on YouTube, but um, at this point, like if I go post on the Slay the Spire subreddit, I will get 2 people harassing and bullying me minimum on my post. This is just like true. Um, the last like effort post that I did for the Slay the Spire subreddit. Ooh, I'm probably gonna get this wrong. Um, but you know, somewhere. So when Life Coach claimed the Watcher World Record, I made a big post about how that's not how world records work, and I tried to like outline how world records do work. Um, and a lot of people were quite reasonable about that. One person spent like 3 hours doxing me, so I was like, "Well, I don't want to be here anymore." And then obviously I made that 80% rotating win rate post, which Life Coach responded to live on stream. That got like downvotes piled on. It still had 2,000 net upvotes, but it got downvotes piled on it from his stream, and then people clicked through to my tier lists, and so my tier lists are like 50% poop rated on it, and a bunch of people like yelled at me on it and said that Life Coach was the best in the world and stuff. And yeah, like the most recent time that I went to the Slay the Spire subreddit was because a trans creator reached out to me on social media and was like, "Hey, I know you've experienced harassment in the Slay the Spire community before. I've been getting a lot of transphobic messages on the subreddit, and I wondered if you could like take a look at this post that I read and kind of like speak to your experience." And so I opened the subreddit. I like clicked on the first thread that I saw, which was Baylor Lord praise post, which is awesome. We like to see Baylor Lord getting positive stuff. I don't know what it's like to be Baylor Lord, but I do like to believe that I kind of waved the red flag at Life Coach a bit and let other people exist in the community without that level of abuse being on them as well. This is like I said, I've made several hour long videos about Life Coach just being an ass, and one of the reasons is to make people aware that he's an ass, but another reason is I would like him to hate me and leave other people alone. So cool that Baylor is getting love. But like then in the thread, somebody was like, "It's weird that you didn't mention that Jorbs was a really good player or whatever." And then the person responded like, "Jorbs is in a weird position. He's like sardonic and quiet and insufferable. Doubtless knows a lot about the game, but he isn't the best competitor," and stuff like this. It's kind of weird having someone psychoanalyze me who doesn't like know me in a community where I used to post on the Slay the Spire subreddit like every single day. I was active in conversations. I was writing like 3 paragraphs in response to people's questions about like whether Cool Headed was good. I was just there all the time, everywhere, and now I'm a person who gets psychoanalyzed there by people who don't know me. Um, and I responded to that person and I said like, "Hey, just so you know, I still don't consider it weird to respond to someone on the Slay the Spire subreddit because like that is where I kind of was like born almost. Like I've been posting on the Slay the Spire subreddit since before most of the people who post on the Slay the Spire subreddit started playing the game. I have like 5-digit comment karma on that subreddit or something like that. So anyway, I responded and I was like, "Hey, just so you know, like the reason that I don't compete a lot is that I like largely got harassed out of competition, and I just noticed that you said that Life Coach was a really good Slay the Spire player, even though he hasn't even like played the game for 2 years, which like he hasn't at this point." And that was like kind of weird, but yeah, anyway, just like kind of wanted to clarify that. So I just like left that comment And then the person who had originally said that I was insufferable was like, "Oh, I didn't mean insufferable in a bad way." Um, what? And and then, uh, and then, one person was like, "Life coach really hit the nail on the head with you," because I shared this thing. So he was like, "Yeah, the grown man pantomiming a child crying, one saying you should be bullied, really knows what's up." Uh, and then a different person like told me that I was washed up and then started like listening personal details about me and said that he'd see me around. So anyway, that's what's up with that. 2023. But yeah, like I said, I cut down my hours streamed inside the Spire a ton and actually raised my hours streamed overall. And like I said, like I like bought a house in 2022. I'm like in a healthy relationship with a partner now. I have published a book. Like things are actually doing really well in my life. Away from all this shit. Uh, so Life Coach spent the first half of the year not streaming. He was in the habit of like traveling for several months, which was actually like kind of on my calendar in terms of like if I'm going to stream much like the Spire this year, I should probably get it done in like spring before Life Coach comes back. Um yeah. Uh but anyway, he spent the first half of the year not streaming. Then he came back and he wanted to go for the Watcher streak in a way that wasn't cheating. But like obviously he framed it as like Jorbs is being so unfair to me, and so we're going to prove him wrong. Because like my interpretation of his narrative was like it was obvious that he could do the Watcher world record streak, and so we should just say he had, even though he hadn't, or something like that. But anyway, he spent 4 years doing that, and, sorry, 4 months doing that rather, and successfully did. And then he swapped. Remember there was that post where I said like I had gone 81% rotating over the course of a month or whatever? He swapped to going for rotating for the first time in his Slay the Spire career. And I thought that was really interesting because that is the category I play. I don't find it interesting to play the same character over and over again. I have tried it. I mean, I played the game when there were only 2 characters, so there was some of that going on when I started playing the game, no matter what. But I have greatly appreciated there being 4 characters in Slay the Spire for the past several years. And so I'm not really interested in playing the same character over and over again. I also just find it like mentally difficult. It's hard for me to finish an Ironclad run and then start a new Ironclad run, and I kind of have like residual synergies in my head of like I'm doing like feel no pain synergies on this Ironclad run, and it's like no, I'm not. That was last run. I need to like reboot. My brain doesn't like do that very well. I'm used to the character switch rebooting the residuals in my like brain RAM or whatever. And so playing the same character over and over again, legitimately something that I'm worse at than people who do it a lot, in my opinion. But rotating, something I'm good at. That's like what I do. And so when he decided he was going to go for the rotating world record streak, I saw that he was doing that. And this is actually like a large amount of my streaming time in 2023. I streamed 471 hours total in 2023. I think like 150 of those were this month when he was going for the rotating world record streak. And I was just like, fuck it. That's something that this guy who says he's better than everyone else is going for that I can actually compete with him on. Like it's in my content wheelhouse. This is what I do on my stream and what my viewers like to watch, so I'm going to do it. And so we had like a little competition, kind of unannounced, a little bit. So he went for that for like a month, didn't get it. Took a break from Spire for a little while. Didn't get it as of November 17th after starting on October 8th. And then, yeah, he hasn't streamed Slay the Spire since. Just disappeared. loved us and left us. I'm not sad about it. Baylor Lord, meanwhile, his solution to not have to interact with life coach. Sorry. Baylor Lord 100% is loving playing Slay the Spire and wanting to make good content for it. I do not personally believe that setting a large overarching goal which does not interface with like win rate is not at least in part because conversation about win rate and Slay the Spire is so fucking toxic. So yeah, he went for card mastery this year where he wanted to win one run of Slay the Spire with 2 copies of every single different card. So like at least one win with 2 copies of Wraithform in your deck, for example. That would be a pretty easy one. But at least one win with like 2 copies of Pain in your deck, that's maybe a bit harder. So that was his goal for the year. And he managed to do that. Took him until October-ish, I think. Amaz kept doing Amaz things. Amaz just kind of streams goofy Slay the Spire runs. But since we're like only looking at stream titles, like his stream titles are generally just like I am playing Slay the Spire or like some goofy joke about playing Slay the Spire. Cool, fine. Jorbs. Like I said, my goal this year was to play Spire like 30% of my stream time. So I did a lot of time in other games, especially Brotato and Baldur's Gate 3. Slay the Spire was actually played for the plurality of hours on my stream, though. It was the most played game, even though it was only played 30% of the time. Launched my book. In September, I did a book reading for people. I did a little nod to competition in September as well. And in November as well, talking about competition. This is what I was talking about with like the month where Life Coach was going for rotating win rates. And I was like, okay, I'm actually going to compete with that. Like I had said previously, it had been kind of fun for me to go for like, what's the best I can do over 60 runs? What's the best I can do over 100 runs rotating? And so I went for a battle versus Past Me. Past Me had achieved 81 and 19. That's when I wrote the Reddit post. And New Me, I don't actually know what I got. I think it was slightly worse. But I ended up doing like 120 runs or something, not 100. I think I got like 79% win rate or something like that. Life Coach, after spending like 3 years insulting everyone, saying we were all terrible at strategy games, that he was better than us, that I didn't know what I was doing, that my strategic advice for people was so bad that it actually made his job harder because people were coming to him with the wrong starting ideas, etc., etc., etc. Won like, I think 63% of his runs, while I won like 79 or something. He claimed that he had an 80% rotating win rate in Slay the Spire at max difficulty, despite never having played rotating Slay the Spire before. Based on the best performances he'd ever had on each of the 4 characters individually, measured at the time that he'd had the best performance he'd ever had on them, and averaging those out, came up with the idea that he was going to have 80% rotating win rate at Slay the Spire, something I had already achieved, for what it's worth. And then he got 62% win rate, which, if you look at the statistics on it, would be a 1 in 5,000 chance if he actually had 80% win rate. It's not quite. Because he didn't actually play rotating either. He just said he was, but then he actually like picked and chose unless he was on a win streak. So, the one time that Life Coach and I actually competed on something, it turned out like that. And he hasn't played Slay the Spire since. But I still have people stalking me and doxing me if I participate in the community subreddit. Anyway, cool. And I was still doing charity work. I did a charity work for Free to Love. I had a bunch of different guests on for this week. It was a really good time. Just talked about our 2023s and what we were excited about in 2024. More and more though, like it wasn't with Slay the Spire creators, really. Like more and more in 2023, I was moving my content away from Slay the Spire. And so even though I'm playing Slay the Spire as like kind of the flagship game on my channel, like I have a bunch of content creators who play other games, and we're just kind of talking about other things and stuff. Less focus on Slay the Spire overall. And Frost Prime was still doing stuff in 2023 as well. Sorry, apparently I didn't pull up any of his titles, but same kinds of things with like fun challenge runs and interaction with chat and stuff like that. And Frost is a very fun, very interactive streamer. 2024. Again, a year with Baylor streaming under 1,000 hours and me streaming even less than I did in 2023. But you'll note, like, no life coach streams at all. Life coach just like left. Paparazzo is doing a lot of work to carry the directory, at least was last year. Got Grubby and Amaz putting in a few hours, but yeah, it's like mostly Baylor is still getting good viewership and putting in a decent number of hours, and Paparazzo, who's been streaming Slay the Spire for a long time, has picked up some of the viewers who, I guess maybe they used to watch Life Coach. I don't know. I don't know whose viewers he picked up exactly. Maybe they used to watch me, but I'm not streaming very much anymore. Yeah. Northern Lion managed to get 12th in the directory, streaming 15 hours, which is kind of wild. But yeah, I think Slay the Spire viewership did... Wait, Slay the Spire viewership was up in 2024? What? Oh, I didn't screenshot the 2023 stuff. Maybe there's good depth in the category. There's quite a few people who are streaming like 500 hours to 100 people and stuff like that. There's still a good number of people who really like playing Slay the Spire, is the situation. But the competitive community for Slay the Spire got completely like torn asunder, and a lot of the like more chill, good Slay the Spire players either like had to invent some other challenge for themselves to be able to keep playing the game or go play something else. And that's kind of how I feel about the Spire directory. But who knows? Baylor is back to doing streak content now that Life Coach has left. Again, I'm not trying to say that there's a direct 100% causality between these two things. Baylor's talked about like streaking being stressful and wanting to have good vibes on his channel and stuff, and it's possible that he just got to a place where he felt comfortable streaking on the channel and felt like it was still good vibes. I don't know. I don't like watch Baylor's streams and inhabit his inner thoughts. It is really interesting to me though that Life Coach leaves the community and you immediately have the good players back to talking about streaks and stuff. I feel like it's probably not entirely disconnected causally. Paparazzo has been streaming Slay the Spire for a long time, so it's cool to see him get some more viewership. You can see these have been all of his streams, and he just kind of streams Slay the Spire and mentions his streak in his title. So again, we have somebody who's like talking about streaks in their title back in the community. Grubby got into Slay the Spire in a pretty big way for a while in 2024. I think he's already moved on, but he's known for Warcraft 3, and he had like a little Slay the Spire arc and a little League of Legends arc kind of around about the same time. So he would have shown a lot of people Slay the Spire on his channel, and then Amaz and Frost Prime are still doing their thing. And that is the end of 2024. It's currently April 2025. And later this year, supposedly, Slay the Spire 2 early access launches. So that's really exciting. And I wanted to take you on the not always super positive journey that like I've gotten to be a part of through the Twitch streaming category of Slay the Spire 1 over the last like 8 years. I think if I can leave you with something, it would be... Okay, two things, actually. One, if you like a community, you need to recognize that the community exists because there are people doing work to create it so that it exists. And if you participate in the community in a way which depletes that work and diminishes the community, you're fighting against them and making it so that community can't exist anymore. If you come into someone's Twitch channel and you like watching it, but your participation in the Twitch channel is to like criticize others or question why things are done the way they're done or things like that, you are draining the energy of the people who are doing work to make that community exist to begin with. And it just doesn't take that many people bringing negativity to a community to spoil the community badly for a lot of people. If you think about someone like me, actually, I'm not like Mortdog. Mortdog's way more impressive than I am, but Mortdog is the lead designer on TFT and has also run like Twitch channel talking about all the balance changes that they're doing for TFT, and has like a very prominent Twitter presence where he's talking about like explaining all the patch notes and communicating about what's going on at the events and stuff like that, and talking with fans and everything. And he's at events doing commentary and stuff. Mortdog today, and this was somewhat the inspiration of me like starting to record this video. Maybe it was yesterday. It was yesterday actually. Yesterday on stream, he basically said like, "Look, the haters won. I'm not going to do this anymore." He's not going to stream. He's not going to have a public Twitter presence. And I think to a lot of people with your perspective, you might look at that and think like, oh, he has some like obligation to the Teamfight Tactics community. He has to do this work. I really like the community. Why won't he keep doing it for me? Etc., etc., etc. That's just like what he does. Surely he'll keep doing it. And I can keep on enjoying this community. And a lot of people have that mindset. And then when Teamfight Tactics isn't what they want, they think I'm going to complain to the person whose job it is to make the Teamfight Tactics community exist, which is Mortdog, and they go yell at him and harass him and call him names and criticize him and criticize his decisions and stuff like that. But it's not his fucking job to make the Teamfight Tactics community exist. That's something that he is doing like as a volunteer project on top of his regular job, because he is one of the people doing the work for the thing you enjoy to exist. And if you're not one of the people doing the work for the thing you enjoy to exist, somebody else is. And you need to like recognize that people are doing that work and like be grateful and be helpful and maybe contribute instead of tearing them down and ruining that work. Because sitting from my perspective and thinking about Mortdog's life, he has an income which doesn't require him to be a public presence, and he has a family and kids. And it's actually hard to imagine it being ethically okay for him to continue having a public presence, like sitting where I'm sitting. Like if I ever have kids and it is still normal for me to get the sort of feedback that I get if I participate in the Spire subreddit, I cannot really imagine myself continuing to participate in any way in the Spire community. My continued participation in the community where I'm like regularly doxxed and harassed is contingent on the fact that it's not going to hurt somebody else who's dependent on me if somebody like shows up outside my door with a gun someday, which is something that I consider possible. So yeah, if you like a community and get something out of it, please be a person who continues to build that community. Like give some of the labor that you're benefiting from back. Like make people fan art and I don't know, like write things about stuff you see that impresses you. Sing people's praises. Share with your friends about something you enjoyed. Don't come to a community and criticize other people and say that they're doing it wrong and ask why can't it be the way that I want it to be and stuff like that. This is a skill set which genuinely takes a while to develop. It can be hard to see who's doing the labor in a community, and it can be hard to understand that that labor has effects. Like, especially, this is a really asinine example, but if you're not the sort of person who like cares that much about eating pizza or something, it might not occur to you that somebody spent $60 to provide pizzas for game night or something, and that for quite a lot of people, that's like a big plus and is going to encourage them to like stay longer and come back again. Um, but if you pay attention in communities which do exist where people are like happy to keep coming back and returning, you will notice that there are people who are doing that. And that's why those communities keep on existing a lot of the time. Yeah. We live in a world where like the number of communities you can exist in where you're not being asked to like pay an admission fee is dwindling. Like we're running out of third spaces, and part of that is because it takes labor to keep those and people aren't contributing and sometimes are actively taking away the ability of the people who do want to contribute to do those things. That was the first thing I wanted to say, and I've already forgotten the second thing that I want to say. Oh, no, the second thing that I want to say is if you want to talk about other people, like on the internet, and you don't know them, it's always safe to just compliment someone without comparing them to anybody else. You don't have to say, like, I really like Dog, he's so much better at Hearthstone than Hafu. You might think that that's like a compliment, but like Dog and Hafu are like married and you've just insulted his wife and you're not actually complimenting him. If you didn't realize they were married or something, I don't know, what a weird compliment to choose. But a lot of the time, like if you come in my YouTube comments and say, I love your stream, it's so much like better than Baylor Lord stream or something like that, I don't receive that as a compliment. You just insulted someone I respect. And like, it's just unnecessary to be comparing people in that way. So say positive things without comparing people to each other, and just like, you just don't have to say negative things. You just don't have to do that. If you don't like someone, you get to just not say something. Some of us like do get people doing enough stuff to us that at like some point we're like, I kind of do need to say some things. But but not you. I don't think. I would find it really surprising if that included you. So like, yeah, just like be positive. Be excited about Slay the Spire 2 and about the things which are still happening in Slay the Spire 1. Be so grateful that this game has had this just almost alien existence and presence on Twitch for the last 8 years. It's just not normal for a game to not only have the breakout that Slay the Spire did at the start of its Twitch career, but then like keep having that steady viewership over time. We look at League of Legends real quick. You can see League of Legends has these injections of viewers around like Worlds. Like this is every October. Nope. I guess Worlds that year wasn't very well viewed. But there you go again. Every October there's League of Legends Worlds. I'm pretty sure Worlds is in October. And a bunch of people tune into League, and then they might go and watch other League streamers playing the game or start playing the game themselves or something like that. There's like a constant churn of new characters bringing more people into the community and stuff like this. And that is contributing to a bunch of people watching and playing League of Legends. The things which are contributing to a bunch of people watching and playing Slay the Spire are like Slay the Spire is a really good game, and the work being done by the like modders and streamers and Reddit moderators and Reddit posters and stuff like that to create a community around Slay the Spire. And if you make that community toxic, you lose it. So like, people can just stop showing up like that. For fun. And also like to leave the point, I guess. I added up the amount of hours that myself and Baylor have spent streaming Slay the Spire since the game came out. And I got, at the end of 2024, that we were at basically 6,600 hours each, which means that Baylor will have surpassed me sometime this year, almost for sure. I'm pretty much certain that he's been streaming Slay the Spire more than I have in 2025. That is so much time. That is so much time that we have worked. And like, we're the lucky ones. We are among the very few people who have like streamed content for Slay the Spire and received like above minimum wage in compensation. In our case, like, I think at this point pretty comfortably above minimum wage, but like the drop off in the category is really fast. The difference between 100 million minutes watched and 10 million minutes watched is very substantial in how much income somebody is able to make out of streaming this game. And it's also the difference between first place and 15th place among streamers. So, yeah. Communities like this just are very, very, very dependent on a lot of work from people who are not being thanked as much as they deserve to be and not paid terribly much for what they're doing. And I'm really grateful to have gotten to be a part of the Slay the Spire community so far. I'm really hoping for a lot more out of Slay the Spire. I'm hoping to play more of it this year, leading up to the release of Slay the Spire 2, whenever that happens to be. And then I'm hoping to play a hell of a lot of Slay the Spire 2. But yeah, I just wanted to do like kind of a recollective on 8 years of Slay the Spire 1 and kind of look at what felt like the big narratives to me, what things worked for people, what things didn't. I think something that you see in Slay the Spire 1 is you don't have to play Slay the Spire in a certain way for people to want to watch and enjoy what you're doing. Like you see lots of people playing Slay the Spire in very different ways and tons of people tuning in to watch and enjoy with them. And viewers at home, of course, like some of the viewers at home are playing like a 6-hour run trying as hard as they possibly can to win, and others are playing like in line at Whole Foods waiting to get their groceries. That's my girlfriend's engagement with Slay the Spire, and that's awesome too. So that is all I had to say. Thanks for coming with me on this journey. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.